my name's Colleen Getty, and we're here in the studio shooting another episode of the Journey of a Story series where we talk to real writers and authors and find out how they bring their ideas from pop in their mind to book in their hand. And we have two wonderful local authors today, Claudette Sabbag and Nancy Parsons, and each of them has their new books. Nancy's got Old Cros, and Claudette has Deer in the Road. And we're going to talk about, basically, we'll start off the way we do with how you write, maybe paint a picture about you and the stuff you use, the place you sit, et cetera, et cetera. So, Claudette, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Well, the thing is, my writing has changed over the last several years, or since I started writing this book. So right now, my writing is mostly done at the Writers Collaborative Learning Center in Reading. For the last year and a half, I've written there.
Nice.
It's become my place, my office, and I've gotten way ahead of where I was before when I was writing at home.
Okay.
So when I do write at home, I have a couple of places. In fact, I sent you some pictures, but I have a couple of different areas where I have a desk set up that I write in at home. I like quiet, and mostly my house is quiet. But my husband works from home, and I can hear him talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I was never as consistent there in my own home as I am now since I've joined the Writer Center.
Right, and I like that word consistent. I feel like that's an important one.
Definitely.
And we're going to touch on, we'll come back to that last thought, but
Yeah.
Nancy, you want to talk a little bit about how you write, paint us a picture?
Okay, I write on an iMac, and I also operate a laptop for reference beside me. But I can't write on the laptop, so I can't move my iMac around either. So I write at home, and I put the computer on in the morning, I wake it up, and I'm in and out, in and out, in and out. I'm not consistent, probably. If I'm working on something, I may stay at it for a couple hours. But otherwise, I run back and forth from the kitchen, work on a sentence. I tend to revise and edit as I go along. So I may take a day on a paragraph and keep going back to it until it just feels right. So I don't write at the center, but I have found there some wonderful support, which maybe we can get into later. Don't do my writing there, but I'm there for the help that it. And I met Claudette there.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think like both of you touch on something that I think is important in the writing is everyone has their own thing they do, but I think what really helps usually propel people is actually finding some sort of community, whether it's one other person or a group or whatever. And when you're talking about consistency, and you're saying inconsistent, but it sounds like you're pretty consistent in terms of
probably I am,
working at it. So anyways, let's actually talk a little bit about that before we get into how each of your journeys progressed. But were your ideas fresh in your mind before you really sat down to do it, whether it was at the center or at home, or did they just sort of, where did your idea for Deer in the Road, for instance, come from?
It came from a few actual events that were happening at the time. It takes place in Cape Cod, and I had just been on a vacation in a house on the beach in Cape Cod. My son is the same age as this guy is in the book when he starts, is 20 years old, and my son had hit a deer in the road, had a car accident with it, and I took things that were happening, and it just kind of evolved more and more and more, though, into it's total fiction. I mean, it is total fiction,
right?
But there's a little basis of things that really happened.
Right.
That got me going.
And I think that's a really good tip you have there is even though it's fiction, you can't write things you don't ever know or have any reference for. So when people are like, oh, they're kind of intimidated by fiction, really you can just pull something that's real and have some fun with it. And it sounds like that's what you did.
It's easier. I almost think fiction's easier because, you can say, well, you can kind of go wherever you want to go with it.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Nancy, where did Old Cro come from?
It came right out of the Writers Collaborative Learning Center.
Okay.
By accident. I had, and I tell this story, and the people at the center enjoy it, so I'll tell it again.
Yeah, please.
I had dropped in, and I was sitting with Jim and Claudette. I wasn't going to stay long, and they were about ready to start what is called, what was that, the April?
Was it April or October?
Well, it was an accelerator, which is a version of NaNoWriMo, which people know about, where you try to write a 50,000 word novel in 30 days.
Which is National, what does it stand for?
National
Novel Writing
Month. Okay, just for those that don't know it.
But anyway, so whether this was, I think it was April. So I thought, I had done NaNoWriMo a couple of times, written a couple of books, fine.
Really?
But I wasn't in the mood to do that. So I said goodbye to Jim and Claudette and got up and I walked to the door of the center. And it was like I met this guy who was Crow. And by the time I turned the corner, walked down the street in Reading and got to my car, the book was there.
Wow.
So all I had to do was put it down on paper.
And so what did you do? Did you run home and just start typing without end? Or how did that get onto paper?
Well, I had 30 days. So I just wrote for 30 days.
Okay.
And I think I pretty much came under in a deadline. But you say write a book in 30 days. You don't write it. You might get words down and you might even get 50,000 words.
Right.
But then you go back and you cut and you paste and you do all kinds of things and maybe you swear a little.
I think the idea is to get a first draft. The idea is you have a first draft in 30 days, which can be really rough.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I have one quick question, then we'll go to you, Claudette. It almost sounded like everything about the book appeared to you, and then it was just a matter of getting it on the page. Did you sort of have an outline, or was it still like you're writing by the seat of your pants?
I don't outline.
Okay.
My work is completely character driven, and I hear it.
Okay.
I know what the characters are saying, and that's called voice. And I think once you have the voice, once a writer hears that voice, it should come easily.
Okay. And do you have any like techniques or things that you do? Do you wait and listen to the voice? Do you sort of try to force the voice? Is there a lot of dialogue in your pieces?
Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue.
Okay.
Sometimes I can start writing and the voice isn't there. And I think I know what I want, but until I hear the voice. And the voice is simply the way it sounds, the way you're writing sounds to you or to someone else.
And so when you say you don't always hear the voice, do you just keep writing is that sort of like you're searching for the voice by doing that, or?
I would try another technique. I sometimes have students write a sentence. They've written something. Write that first sentence again. Then write it again. Then write it again and read all of and which one do you like? And that's the one that probably is the voice. It will come easily to you.
Right. Oh, that's a great tip. Claudette, so it sounds like, did you also do this accelerator and this is where the book came from? Or?
No, this book has been in the works since, for years, going on 14 years.
Okay.
But so the first 8 years, the original idea came in 2011. So that's in terms of things changing, the first 8 years, it was very just off and on. I mean, I was not consistently writing. I didn't tell anybody I was writing a book.
Right. Yeah.
And I was still working, and I was working as a teacher. So when I retired in 2019, then I got into it a little bit more. I said, well, you know what, I'm going to, this is something I want to do. I want to try to write something. I have an idea for a book. I actually told people, a few people. And
so then they start to hold you accountable.
I made a little room in my house, and but it was still not as consistent. The pandemic helped.
Yeah.
So I got a whole first draft. I had a first draft when I started at the Writers Center a year and a half ago. I had a first draft.
Okay.
But it took me 8.5 years or something to get there. Or no, it took me more than that. It took me like 12 years to get there.
Right. And so that was just your first draft.
That was just the first
draft. Don't edit as you go like Nancy? I
do. Oh, no,
okay.
No. You know, when I say first draft, that may not be quite right. I edit. I do edit as I go along, and that's what you know. I'm not good actually at sitting down and just writing without correcting anything. I'm not good at that. I'm trying. Like I'm going to try this next accelerator to really do that, but that's a little hard. That's hard for me.
Right. I feel like a lot of people have trouble with that.
That is hard for me. But once I joined the center and actually said yes, I've written this. You know, came out as a writer.
Right. No, I mean that is a process. Is admitting you're writing
and
a writer.
Actually had people read it. I may be getting off track from your question. No, I'm sorry, whatever it was, but
perfectly on track.
But once and then, that was a big thing. Having somebody else actually read it.
Okay.
And not go, oh, this is awful.
Right. I mean, and
really,
I think, can we go back to that in terms of like the feeling of that, right? Because I think that's a part where people stall out sometimes, is they have this, but then you do have to kind of get over your own fear of like, it's being vulnerable.
It's this feeling of, oh yeah, I wrote this, but I don't want anybody else to read it.
Right.
So when I finally did that, that was a big breakthrough, I think, actually.
And so just for those listening to you and having maybe that same intimidation of showing other people you're writing, what was it something you had to do within yourself, or a combination of also, when you find the right people, you feel more comfortable? And what was that whole process?
I think it was a little of both, I guess, just joining the writing center. I think the word would be going out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
You have to go out of I've had to go way out of my comfort zone, and this is out of my comfort zone.
Right.
So,
and you're here.
So it was out of my comfort zone.
Right.
But I said, I wanted to do it. I wanted to, I put so much time into it that I said, let's just do this. Let's keep going and, get it to this point. So.
Right. And so did you feel like relieved after you did it? Were you like, oh,
yes, I felt good.
Yeah. So it was kind of getting over that.
I think it's confidence building, and it's
right.
Yeah.
And validation of you've written something wonderful, and somebody else can and not just say, oh, it's great, leave it as is, maybe get some feedback. Do you want to talk a little bit about critique group or anything that you're getting in terms of the community of it?
Sure. Yeah. The critique group also helped a lot. I think we started that maybe in May or something, I guess. And we had 4 originally, and then Nancy came in. And so 5 of us read all of each other's work along the way.
Okay.
And that was hard too. That was another out of your comfort zone thing.
Right.
Not only just to hear the criticism, but to give criticism in a constructive way. And that was a really good experience also. And it did help. And all ideas that people gave me helped to. I had a very weak middle. I had the beginning and the end. I had a very weak middle, and ideas people gave me, I've put it. Used some, not all. And that was another thing, to say to myself, I don't have to do, if I really like something and they don't,
Yep. Right. You're the writer at the end of the day.
Right. But there was an awful lot of critiques that I got that helped.
Right.
Yeah.
And I liked your point, because it doesn't always come up with when talking about critiques, but I run a critique group, and there's been so many times people say, well, I don't know what like they discount their own opinion about something. And so I think that's a great point you make, is, don't discount your own opinion. the writer at the end of the day can take it or leave it, but we all have our taste, and you can say this confuses me, or I love this, and it's all valid. So I think it is helpful hearing that from other people.
Yes.
Nancy, you want to go in? You guys have a different critique style.
I have a slightly, I'll add to it.
Okay.
I think that I found that the people who critiqued Old Crow, each one contributed in a different way. Now, Claudette had read very carefully, and she generously went through and almost line by line if there was something that needed help. And that was very helpful. I tend to be a little more general with my critiques. I don't know whether that helps or not, but each person in their own way had something constructive.
Yeah.
So, you can write and maybe hand the manuscript to somebody to read for you, but the fact that there were the different eyes on it and the different voices critiquing was very useful.
Right. And I think that's a great point, too, that everyone has their own perspective and also their pet peeves and things like that. Somebody might be better at grammar or finding when you change tense, or like you, Nancy, looking at sort of the whole bird's eye view and saying the essence of things. So I think having at least 3 or 4 people in your group really helps. Do you want to talk a little bit about the structure of how you guys run your critique group? Because it's every critique group is different, and you all do a full book critique group, right? Not just chapter by chapter each month. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
Well, I think you're the veteran of the group,
because when we started it with four, we did do chapter by chapter, but it was a chapter a month.
Right.
I think some of us might have done a few chapters if they were short or something, but it was by chapter.
Oh, okay.
Originally. And then I think we didn't get all the way through it. I don't know if we got all the way through our books, and then we decided to do the whole book.
Okay.
We took I don't know if you know Laura Haddisy. She's local writer also, and she did with us first a workshop on how to do a critique group, rules to follow. Timing, who gets what amount of time to talk, rules about, what you say and don't say. And, obviously you're not going to be mean to a person, how to say things in a positive way.
Yeah.
So we did that first also.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk about the difference between doing it chapter a month and the whole book? Because there is that challenge of the chapter a month where it's like, oh, what happened last month? And it's so piecemeal versus a full book. What was your experience with those different?
Yes, I think that was one thing that I found was a little difficult, because they'd read a chapter and be asking these questions where you'll get the answer. I'd have to say, well, you'll find that out.
Right.
You will find that out. So that is challenging. For a lot. Jim has this, like a mysterious thing going on, and it's like, you can't. It's hard to do chapter by chapter a little bit. I think you just have to have that in mind.
Right. Okay.
Doing it the first time was hard, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess you have to have a whole book written if you're doing it the whole book way too, right?
Right.
So maybe it was helpful
we
to.
We did, and that's the thing. We had all gotten to that point.
Okay,
so
that's great.
That's why we were able to do it that way.
Right. Nancy, you want to talk a little bit about when did you decide you're going to really go for turning this into a book, polishing it up, and getting it onto a shelf?
Well, I was just getting it out. And when it was out, that was it. It wasn't nothing formal, no expectations.
And you have a few others. I know we're not chatting about those, but you have 3 other books here anyways. So any difference between either the learning curve, or things that you found, was this the easiest of your 4 to do because you've had 3 before, or maybe talk a little bit about the differences?
I think probably the easiest one was Estelle, because I was doing something else that wasn't working out, And Estelle, the character of Estelle came to me and was really annoying. And she kept saying, write about me, but then I would do a little bit, a piece of Estelle. And finally, she was so annoying that I just put down the book. I was writing a book. It was called The Book Group. And it was really plotted carefully. And I'm not a plotter, but each month, the book group I would focus on the hostess. I'd do a review of the book that they were going to talk about, and then I would have a scene where they were in the book group and then a follow-up. And I had written 9 months worth of that, and I couldn't make myself sit there and edit it and fix it. And meanwhile, I've got Estelle.
Was Estelle
Right
part
about
of
me.
that book?
Yeah. And finally, I just said, the book group this is not a good book, and I don't care. I'm not going to publish it.
Okay.
So I published Estelle. I finished her up. I listened to her. And, it's just, it's just a character thing.
Yeah.
It's hardly more than a character sketch, I guess.
And so was Estelle part of the book group book, and you just sort of splintered her off?
No.
She was a separate thing. Okay.
No. Estelle was, the setting was 1946, and Estelle is 18 years old, and I did it in 3 decades. Then she is in her 20s, and then in her late 30s, and it was Estelle.
Okay.
Yeah.
She really was annoying. She got you 3 decades in one book.
It was fun because, as I say, I keep a laptop beside me, so I kept going back in the 1940s and what were the films? What was going on in the news? What was the music? And that I was able to fold that in, and that was fun.
Yeah, and
the
that's
50s too. It was just fun.
That is fun, and that's probably where good writers that are genuinely curious about things are great authors. Did you have to do any research? I know you said this sort of sprung from a Cape Cod trip and everything,
Right.
but what part of it had to be researched?
Well, a couple of things. It does go through time. It does end up. It's a story that an older man is telling to his granddaughter, and so actually, when the story is being told, it's in the future. It's 2047, so which isn't that far in the future right now. But so I had to just throw in a little bit of things like electric cars and more erosion on the Cape, and I didn't go too heavily into that part because who knows.
Right.
And then it goes back as far as 1977, which I was there, and so, but I did have to look up a few things along the way of kind of like how much things would cost and things like that.
Okay.
Things about cars. And then yes, you're right. Thanks. And then I have one of the a few of the characters are Wampanoag Native Americans.
Okay.
Mashpee Wampanoag. So I also did research on, I mostly through websites, but also the museums, the Plymouth Patuxent Museum, and there is a Wampanoag Museum, Mashpee Wampanoag Museum.
Okay.
And so I went down and drove around, and I did that kind of research also.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And what's the genre of yours, would you say?
Well, I have a hard time with that. It's realistic fiction, family relationships.
Okay.
What else would you say?
Fiction.
General. It's really general.
Okay.
Kind of nice. Nice
Right.
story.
And how about you, Nancy? What's your genre of yours?
Old Cros is literary fiction.
Okay.
Because literary fiction follows the internal workings of the character.
Ah.
And Crow is in the hospital. He didn't mean to. He went in there for something minor, but you know how medical
That's how it
people
starts.
are. Yeah. And they kept finding things and keeping him there, and all he wants to do is go home. And I wanted to see if I could write a blend of present reality and the past and how they flow together.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in the hospital, people thought Crow was hallucinating because he was seeing these people. And Anyway, I think I was reasonably successful. So
Okay.
I consider it literary fiction.
Okay, interesting. So now let's talk about, you got this book, you got it revised, you're getting ready to create a book out of it. What did you both go to the same publishing company? Did you take, did you learn from past? You have 3 to go by. Did you go with the same publishing company? We'll start with you, Nancy. How did you decide, okay, now I do want to publish this and this is what I'm going to do?
I published my first print-on-demand book back in 1999.
Okay. Great
And
year.
It was with Ex Libris, and that was very exciting.
Mm.
Well, then publishers began to jump on that do-it-yourself thing.
Mm.
And I started working with a company about 2006 called Lulu.com. And it enabled me to upload my book and the cover and print on demand,
Mhm.
and only buy as many or as few as I wanted. And I've stuck with them. I'm very interested in what Claudette's doing and watching her avidly, because she essentially is the same technique, but it's just a different company. So I have done Lulu, and she has done Ingrid Spark. So she'll tell you all about that.
Okay. Well, then tell me all about that, Claudette.
Yeah, so I've used Ingram Spark
Okay.
as the basic publishing platform. I don't know exactly what you call it, but but I've basically Jim Smith from the Writing Center,
Mhm.
who has his own publishing company, which happens to be Idea Publishing.
Oh, how ironic.
Yeah, I know. And he always wears his little hat with the
Okay.
idea.
Ah.
So I went through him. I'm going through his publishing company,
Okay.
but we go through Ingram Spark. So the book was downloaded onto this thing called Vellum.
Mhm.
And you really basically take the manuscript, stick it in there, and it's there, and then you just go. It's just there, and
Poof.
and you can go into it and edit, add things, and change things. I'm in the proof. This is a proof right now,
Okay.
so I'm going through and fixing any little things that do still pop up.
Mhm.
And then Ingram Spark, they take it and they put it on everything. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, the ebook, Apple, so it's going to be an ebook, a soft cover and a hard cover.
Okay.
I had an illustrator.
Okay. For the cover, or are there
cover.
pictures inside?
No, just for the cover.
Okay.
I did have an illustrator for the cover.
Nice. And how did you find them?
I actually found her also through Jim. I used the same illustrator that he's using for his book.
Okay. So is Idea sort of one of these, I've talked to people that you pay them a fee, they do the editing, they do the setup, and they do the publication, or is what's the setup for Idea?
I've kind of worked with him in terms of the editing. I also I also did have an editor. Actually Sally from your group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She did edit my book also.
Okay. And how was that process?
It was good. Again, it was my first time, and she did a great job. I would maybe and on my end I would do things a little bit differently, but it was again, this is all new to me. Everything I do is new. So Jim has just helped me a lot with the process of publishing.
Yeah.
I'm going to say he's wonderful, and if anybody is looking to, get a book together, talk to him, because he's just sort of starting to help people, and he's just marvelous.
Right. And he's often at the Writers Collaborative in Reading, right? Or with your group. Is he part of the critique group, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice. And so it's probably very helpful to have somebody who's actually part of your critique group that actually is walking you through the publication process as well.
Oh yeah, it's been that place has saved me. I mean, that's what's done.
A wonderful resource.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, I feel like it's a resounding theme. Anytime I talk to somebody, you can only take your book so far by yourself. You know, you can write it, and you can revise it, but you need to be able to, you know, it doesn't matter what you intended to write if someone else is confused, and if four people are confused, you know, it's so helpful at some point to have, for various reasons, other people, and it's nice to have resources that you can walk into as well. So, and what was getting your book? I mean, we'll go for you, Claudette, because this is your first ever publication, right?
Yes,
Debut.
It is. Yes,
So what was it like actually being able to hold that book in your hands?
It's very exciting. You know, it's very, it makes you, it validates it. That was the word that you used. Yeah, it makes it a reality.
Yeah.
It's an accomplishment.
And you said this is, what is this? It's like it's not your real book. I forget what term you used.
Proof. But this is the way the paperback, you know, will look.
So, but do you take those, and do you have beta readers now to help you find any mistakes, or are you just doing it yourself?
It's very minor things.
Okay.
I don't even know how they stayed in there, the minor things that are in there.
I know, it's always boggles my mind.
I don't know, because I looked at it on the vellum on the screen, and I didn't see it, but you see it in book form, and oh my goodness, there's a missing quotation mark.
I know, it's amazing how it's like when you send an email and then you're like, I think I spelled something wrong after you sent it.
Well, you know, because those things that catch spelling mistakes, don't catch something if it's something about, she touched his, no. He joined the arm. It didn't catch it as a spelling mistake, and he joined the army.
Right.
For some reason, I hadn't put the Y on it. I don't know where it came off somehow.
Right.
Things like that don't get caught with those, you know. Anyway, spell check kind of things.
This is, because it's print on demand, she just declared this a proof copy. She didn't have to do that. And you know, you could send for another proof copy if you wanted.
That is what I'm going to do. I'm fixing these small mistakes, and then I'll get one more proof copy
to be sure that
I don't think.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that's it. So you know, I'm just kind of meticulous. I mean, I'm glad I did get the proof first, because I don't.
Well, on the other hand, I'm a slob.
I'm an ex-teacher. I'm a teacher, so the whole I want it. I don't want.
So, but that's a good question.
I quotations, putting quotations, and whether you put a comma or a period. I had it a little bit, even though I am a teacher. I had it a little messed up.
But you want to be happy with it when it's done.
Yeah.
So how long do you have? Is there a time limit to how you can change it? Like, say you have a week, or can you do it any time with the print on demand?
In the Ingram Sparks, you can do it. You can make your own time on it. I mean, I said that it will be available May 15th. But you know, I can have it all in and ready before that. I can change it if I wanted to. If I said, oh no, something happened, I can't do it till June 15th, I could change it.
Okay.
Very flexible.
And so after that, so say it's May 15th, you've set as your deadline. What's going to happen then? Are you printing out several copies after May 15th? Can you make any changes, or what's that process?
Yes, I think you can always make it is print on demand.
Okay.
Like Nancy said. So you can always make changes.
That's awesome.
And then it's sold, bookstores can also buy through Ingram Spark.
Yes.
So it can be, maybe even some bookstores will buy it, or I could buy them, myself.
Right. Okay.
However, it's very
that's
flexible.
Great to know you can still make changes. I mean, I feel like there's plenty of famous books even that's like, how is this still in here?
We found one.
And so, Nancy, for you, what was it like? I know this is your fourth baby here, but
no, I've done more than that.
Oh, okay. Well, then this is your umpteenth baby. Yep. What was it like holding this one? Was it different?
I'm always scared.
Yeah.
We've shipped your book, and then I think, oh dear, I don't want to see the postman even.
Oh, really?
Because I get scared at that point.
What are you scared of?
That it'll just be a mess.
Okay.
Or there'll be some mistake and I'll have to, change it, and I don't feel like doing.
Right.
But then I open it and it's okay. Or I can say to my husband, "Is it okay?"
That's awesome.
And it's exciting. It's always exciting.
Yeah.
Once a book is written, it's sort of, I'm like one of those animals that once the bird or whatever
Right.
it is fledged, I don't pay too much attention to it.
Right. That's probably better, right? For your
maybe.
sanity, I think.
Maybe, but,
And I think it's believable. It seems true, even though we all want to think, "Ooh, it's so exciting to get your first book."
Yeah.
There has to be, just like showing your first draft to a critique group, getting this is almost like another level, except on a much more global scale of, oh God, now it's out there, right? So I can totally see how
what if
that
someone
could be
looks?
scary. Right, exactly. And how about your cover? How did you do that?
Well, this cover demanded quite a lot of. I knew I wanted it very severe,
Mm-hmm.
and that was kind of strange. So I said to my husband, "I need a feather. Would you draw a crow's feather?" And he did, and that's all I wanted on the cover.
Okay.
And it looks a little blank, but on the other hand, when it's with a lot of books that have a lot of color in them, it does stand out in its strange way.
Right.
But it's a severe cover on purpose.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, that's the beauty of, I mean, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but
Right.
we all have to admit there is something to each cover.
But I enjoy designing covers. Then I got into a software problem, and
Oh,
I don't enjoy it as much with the new software. But
right.
anyway, so that's the story then.
Okay, so you gals have come all the way to, congratulations, you have your books. What are you doing? They're not out yet, right? Both of them? When does yours come out?
Well, mine sort of is.
Okay, sort of. And yours is May 15th, tentatively?
Yes.
Okay. So what's the plan afterwards? Are you having like a launch party? Are you going to, what's in terms of getting your book out there now into hands? What are you going to do?
I am having a launch party at the Writer Center on May 17th. So that'll be my first one.
Awesome.
Beyond that, I have actually signed up for something at the end of June at the Woburn Public Library.
Oh,
They're
great.
having a local authors book fair.
Oh, wonderful.
So those two things are signed up for. I'm going to talk to local bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
And go from there.
And so there begins that learning curve, right? That's a whole nother part of the
Advertise
publication.
I made a Facebook author page.
Okay. Right. It's a lot. I mean,
social media
when you get the
and
book,
stuff,
your
so-
journey's just beginning in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, if you're if you're going to try this.
It depending on who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
it's-
How about you, Nancy? How did do
Now
you have it down?
Now it's to the point that I like writing, but I don't like promoting. I was in advertising for years,
Okay.
and I don't like promoting, particularly myself. It's the writing for me is sort of like singing in the shower. I do it to hear my own voice.
Right.
And I am uncomfortable with promoting. I am not having a launch party, but I'm going to Claudette's launch party,
Okay.
and I'm looking forward to it. So, a little bit of promotion on social media, I guess. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
I feel that people don't search for novels on Amazon. They go there because they're going there for a specific title.
Mm.
And that means you have to get the title out, but this is not going to be a bestseller. And I don't have my expectations.
Right, right. Well, and I mean, and that's a resounding theme also with other authors is, the promotion part of it is not everybody's wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And even if it is, promoting yourself is hard. And, there's a learning curve of who do I talk to? There's that whole layer of information you have to basically go out and get.
Mm.
So yeah, it's interesting, you know, and after a while.
Yeah, it's a whole different skill set.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the importance of having a built-in group, because you don't necessarily want to publish something nobody's going to read, but at least if, you know, or know about, I mean, if you have your own group, at least you know, hey, you got your first circle, right? And then maybe another circle will follow after they've read it and they've read it. And, you know, a quiet way to promote is just as valid as any, right? Like if you have a big publisher and you're doing a tour.
Thank you. That's a nice thought.
Yeah. So speaking of nice thoughts, why don't we, sorry, we do have to wrap up, but I'd love to hear from both of you what your parting words of advice for people who are writing or hoping to publish or aren't sure they should publish, whatever pulled from your own experiences. Claudette, we can start with you. Any parting words of advice for the writers out there that are watching?
Well, I would say, first of all, not to give up, because I mean, and if you do give up, you can always go back again, because I felt like I did say, no, I'm not going to bother doing this several times.
Yeah.
But I guess what it is that the people kept coming back to me. Like she talks about Estelle talking to her. They'd come back to me, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning when you wake up. And I'm like, oh yeah, those people. Okay, I guess I got to get back to them. What happens next? And then I just said, you know, I guess I just finally said, look, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna finish it. So you can't give up. There was something else. Oh, well, and the whole, I didn't think I would join a group. I'm not a joiner of groups. But the whole joining a writer's group definitely helps.
Yeah.
To have people to bounce things off of, to move you along. I don't know, to give you some self-confidence. That's what I found. Fortunately, you know,
and a deadline.
And
yes.
You know,
Best
and
friend.
well, that's the thing. You really should. It's not. You do need to commit time, you know. And even if you're not consistent, you need to at least go back to it. And you need to. And having a deadline is good.
Right.
And going out of your comfort zone. I think that's an important part.
Right.
There's somewhere along the way where you have to go out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Even if it's to the point where, oh my God, somebody's going to read this book now.
Right. Well, I'm looking forward to it on May 15th. Well, congrats and thanks for your parting words of advice. Okay. And Nancy, anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I have something that's very important to say. When people are beginning a project or are beginning to write, they'll say, I want to be a writer. I think I want to be a writer. Say, I am a writer. Say it to yourself in the bathroom mirror. I am a writer. I am a writer. Say it to other people, even though you're afraid. Because, you know, if you act the way you, like someone you want to be, you become that person. So even if you haven't written much, I am a writer. It took me years to say that.
Yeah. That's
great affirmation, though.
Yes, thank you. That's wonderful advice. So thank you, Claudette and Nancy. You guys really, I'm so happy for both of you, and thanks for coming in today. And if anybody else would like to join us in the seat, if you've published something and brought it all the way to publication, please feel free to contact theroomtowrite.org. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.